this incredibly skewed distribution of income and wealth that we're having to live with in America. So I think wealthy people ought to pay more than they're paying, including me. I mean, it's just only fair. I think that the estate tax should go back in place, because we don't want to have a society where 10% of the people are funded for life and don't work and simply enjoy themselves, and 90% of the people are struggling to put food on the table. And that's what we're headed to.
General, you bring up a fantastic point. We're not going to agree in terms of the military spending, which is fine. We're not going to agree on everything. But if you look at the trajectory, especially from the years of FDR through JFK, and even more so up until Reagan, the top marginal tax rate fluctuated at a high point of 94% under Eisenhower and JFK, and it was hovering at about 72% when Reagan took office. And over the course of 6 years, it got down to 28%. Now it's up to about 38, 39% today. But in terms of where so much of that wealth gap really exists in society, it is the top marginal tax rate that has been reduced significantly. So the rich, whether it's Bezos, Gates, Musk, the list can go on, because we got plenty of, to even think that we've got multi-billionaires today. I think a lot of that stems from the fact that we do not have a fair tax code. Many people have come up with suggestions as to how to fix that. Some are extreme in the sense that we should just go to a flat tax. But I think if we were to close the tax loopholes and have the marginal tax rate restored, I really do think that that would mitigate a lot of the problems and significantly reduce the wealth gap. Do you see it that way?
Well, I think we do have to look at the tax code, but I have to be careful on the loopholes, because one of the biggest loopholes is home ownership. And actually, the percentage of home ownership today is lower than it has been. After the Second World War, the U.S. government and the people decided that home ownership was one of the most important elements and factors in having a good society. Soldiers came back from war, they wanted families, and rather than living in apartments with the automobile, they could own their own home. And so the whole structure of America changed. And then Eisenhower pushed it with the interstate highway system. And this deduction for home ownership costs the federal government billions and billions of dollars every year. If you own your own home, you can deduct the interest from your income. That's the whole point. It encourages, these are tax expenditure policies that encourage certain behaviors. And home ownership has been tremendously encouraged in this country. And that's one of the biggest loopholes in the tax code. So we have to be careful. People always say, well, you need to depreciate. You need to accelerate depreciation. You can do that. We did that in the 1980s under Reagan. You can accelerate, you can depreciate R&D expenditures, let's say. You need to do more of that. But these are really arcane, tough economic calls, because there's only so much you can take from the economy in terms of government spending. And you got to give back. And you've got to give it back in a way that shapes the society that meets the needs. And that's the function of the government, to figure out how to do that. So I've been very impressed with the skills of the people, the staffers on the Hill, for example, who know these budgets. If you say, oh, you should change this, or put this R&D tax credit in, they'll go back and show you 40 years worth of research on the R&D tax credit and what it did do and didn't do. You say, well, you need to do something more for health insurance. I said, yeah, but here's what happens when you try that. For me, I've never believed that health insurance was the right way to go. I always believed that health services are the right way to go. That is to say, you need a single payer system, and you need to move the system, the American people, toward a single payer system. Doesn't mean you're going to get rid of the health insurance industry. If you want private health insurance, go get it. But the trouble with private health insurance is it's sort of contrary to nature. If you buy life insurance, you want to live. Of course, if you die, you want your family to have the money, but you want to live. And the insurance company wants you to live. because they don't want to pay off the lump sum or the annuities. So you have the same interest. But in the health business, you don't. Now, the health insurance company wants you to buy insurance and stay very healthy. But if you get very sick or you have recurring problems, the health insurance company would like say, I'm sorry, it doesn't fit our profit margins and, we can't insure you. So Obamacare was supposed to help some of that, but the co-payments and other loopholes in Obamacare and the fact that several states fought against it on partisan grounds in Texarkana, Texas, which is Texarkana, Arkansas. In Texarkana, Texas, you don't get good medical care. In Texarkana, Arkansas, you did because our governor figured out a way to bring Obamacare into the Medicaid system and make it more helpful to people. And in Texas, for partisan reasons, they decided not to do that. So there's these are all important public policy questions. But one of the things that I learned running for office is that, your priorities, show your values. So for me, the priority should be start with the culture. What kind of people are we? How do we treat each other? Do we respect each other as individuals? Do we respect our young people? Do we provide them with the nourishment, the education they need? Do we take care of the old and infirm, the disabled? So it starts with that. And then you have to build the security around it. And that requires law enforcement. It requires borders. It requires the military. And you have to have an environment that's conducive to proper business. Now, you have to balance these things off. And look, it's a joke, an old British golf joke I learned when I was at NATO. The joke goes like this. Most people play a fair game of golf if you watch them closely. And this is the way it is in the economy. No matter how virtuous the person, if you give business the choice of having a 40% return or a 20% return, they're going to say a 40% return. And they're going to give you all the valid reasons why that's better. So if you don't have a government to regulate markets, to enforce the rules of the road, to look at the downstream, years ahead implications of policies, then you'll have a country that's gone haywire. And in fact, if you go back and look at what happened in 2008, the Securities and Exchange Commission completely failed in its responsibilities.
Yes.
To look at mortgage-backed securities and the risks involved. If you look at what happened after that, we've had this long debate between Paul Samuelson, one of my favorite economists that I studied at school, and most people have, and I taught it when I taught economics, and Milton Friedman, whose theories really, they didn't hold water. They were good ex post, but they weren't good policies, and they were disproved. And yet the political idea of get government out of the way, government can't make decisions, those have a lot of appeal to people.
Yeah.
And I can understand that. So we got to get the balance right in the country. I think the balance is a little bit off right now.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.